Ishmael. Eli was God's priest, and his boys were so crooked, they were the first televangelists. They were robbing from the ministry, and they were having adultery with the ladies, and God killed them. But God sent him one named Samuel that he helped to raise. It wasn't his child that became God's prophet. He was the last of the judges and the first of the prophets. But Samuel turned around and had boys that acted just like Eli's boys. Jesse, the father of David, he even forgot that David was out there in the field. David had one son that raped his half-sister. He had another son that murdered that son. He had another son that rebelled against him and was killed in battle. Solomon, the wisest man that ever lived, his son Rehoboam, and Solomon's successor split the kingdom because he was an idiot. In my lifetime, I would say that the greatest president in my lifetime, and you might disagree, was Ronald Reagan. He was an incredible president. He was a terrible father. Two of his children absolutely went the opposite direction of everything that he believed and held true. Men can succeed in business, they can contribute to science, they can forge empires, they can even be a faithful minister and fail at home. This is so important that Paul said to Titus, or to Timothy, 1 Timothy 3, 4, and 5, that a bishop ought to be one who rules his own house well, having his children in submission with all reverence. For if a man does not know how to rule his own house, how will he take care of the church of God? I'm going to tell you, we start enforcing that, there'll be a lot of empty pulpits this coming Sunday. But it's in the book, isn't it? Now, if all of these great dads, all these great men failed as dads, could anyone succeed? Well, there was a little fella in Mark chapter 9 that did. A little nameless man. He brought his son to Jesus. That is the first and greatest task of a dad. Bring your children to Jesus. I told you we had drive-through prayer yesterday. There was a man came by in a little truck, kind of an elderly man, and probably in his late 50s, something like that. And he came through, and he just kept grabbing my hand. He said, "My daughter has cancer. And now they've found out that she's septic. And they got her in Jacksonville. Please pray for my daughter." And he just kept reaching out and grabbing my hand. Please pray for my daughter, Megan. Please pray for her. You know, my daddy never dropped a hint that he wanted his boys to be preachers. That was never a family expectation. He wasn't a pastor himself. He wasn't the family business. No, he just brought us to Jesus every time he could. We didn't grow up going to church. We grew up being part of the church. We were there Sunday school. We still have that, by the way. We were there Sunday school, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, every night of revival. One of the greatest ball games that my brother Travis ever played in, we missed because we had revival at our church. And Daddy wanted to show that being in church was more important. He didn't want to be there. He wanted to be at the ball game. I know there are some of you out there that say, "Well, I don't think he made the right decision." Well, I'm going to tell you where that boy is this morning. He's preaching the gospel. Proof's in the pudding, if you ask me. Amen? Listen, playing ball and riding bikes and playing catch and going fishing, going hunting and all of that, those are wonderful, but they should be seen as a means to an end. There ought to be a purpose behind them. Listen to what Deuteronomy 6:4-7 says. Listen, Israel, the Lord our God is the only true God, so love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength. Memorize His laws and tell them to your children over and over again. Talk about them all the time, whether you're at home or walking along the road or going to bed at night or getting up in the morning. Teachable moments. When things come up in life, even when you fail. You go through the drive-thru and you get mad, you tell somebody off, and the Spirit convicts you, and you're riding along, and you turn and you say to your children, you know what, Daddy was just wrong. We're better than that. I shouldn't have acted that way. We got to turn around. I got to go tell that little 15-year-old girl I'm sorry. Teachable moments. That dad that did was also a dad that didn't. He didn't let his own disappointment deter him. I brought him to your disciples and they couldn't cast him out. You ever been hurt? You ever been church hurt? You ever been disappointed in others? You ever been disappointed in God when He didn't act the way you thought He ought to act or respond the way you thought He ought to respond? You ever been tempted to give up? And then you look across the room and you see those babies and you say, no, I've got to teach those babies that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. That man didn't give up. And he didn't quit. In fact, Jesus asked him, how long has this been going on? He said it's been going on since he was a child. And often, this is verse 22, often it's thrown him into the fire and into the water to destroy him. And he didn't have much faith. He said, if you can do anything. He didn't say like Martha, Lord, I know you can do, even now, do anything. He said, if you can do anything. He said, not only has it been going on a long time, but this kid is going from bad to worse. But that daddy went farther. He didn't quit. He didn't give up. He didn't get discouraged. He kept on till he got that boy to the feet of Jesus. Don't give up. And Jesus said, well, just believe. All things are possible to those that believe. But he was honest about his own weakness. Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. You know, doubt is like a disease, but unbelief is a decision not to accept the promises of God. That man had been dealing with this for years. Don't look down your religious nose at him for having doubts. He had been living with this for years. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's difficult for me, and I'm not trying to lift my children up above anybody else, but I've been so blessed. I've been blessed. My children have never caused me 1 minute's problem, 1 minute's trouble. Now, can't say they never called me worry, because you worry about your children. I've been blessed, and it's easy for me to look at people that struggle with children that have other needs or have other problems or have different personalities, and I don't see that they've been living with it for years. He said, this has been going on a long time, and it's getting worse. It's going from bad to worse. But he was honest. He said, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. In other words, he said, Lord, before you help him, I need you to help me. Before you heal him, I need you to heal me. There's something lacking in my life. There's something that's went south in my life. I need you to help me. That's what a daddy does. But you know what? He did receive his answer. And some of you may feel like you failed as a father or dad. You may feel like you failed again and again, but then again, it ain't over yet, is it? Mark 9:25, when Jesus saw the crowd gathering fast, he didn't want the crowd involved in it. He spoke to him. He said, come out of him, and that convulsed that boy so that he fell like he was dead, exhaustion, dead. Almost everybody said he was dead. Let me tell you what sin will do to your children. It'll cause them to be out of control. This boy fell in the water. He fell in the fire. But it ain't over. It was a deaf and mute spirit. It caused him to be deaf. You've told him the right way. You've told him about the things of God. You told him what to do to get out of trouble. You told him how to get on the right path, but it just falls on deaf ears. But then again, it ain't over yet. He was mute. That father longed to hear the boy say the right things to him. Maybe your child, you've longed to hear them say kind words. You've longed to hear them say the things that you've taught them. But then again, it ain't over yet, is it? This boy was tormented. He screamed and he shook. And maybe your heart's breaking because you just see how